Do we have too much government?
We need to put people ahead of corporate profits.
This system is so lopsided.
This threat is a real threat to democracy.
And I think that's really important. That's something we haven't been doing in this country for a long time.
Where do you start? What do you do? How do you do it?
Access to Democracy and other Eagan community television programming is supported by Thomson Reuters, makers of Westlaw Next and based in Eagan. Through Westlaw Next and other innovative online services, Thomson Reuters is the world's leading source of intelligent information for businesses and professionals. Online at thomsonreuters.com. And by U.S. Federal Credit Union, the member-owned financial institution offering service, value, and experience you can trust to the greater Twin Cities community.
Hi, welcome to Access Democracy. I'm Roxanne Meshar, and I have a wonderful guest with me today, Denise Sjoberg, a real estate agent, but also mom and international traveler, and she's going to share with us a little bit about how she combines all aspects of her life to integrate that with her values and does it very successfully. So welcome, Denise.
Well, thank you very much. It's so nice to
it'll
be
be
here.
kind of interesting to talk today and kind of see how you manage everything, because many of us have to do that, men and women alike. We have families, we have community interests, we have activities with our churches or with political events, as well as our work. So managing all of that and keeping that all going, maybe for the sandwich generation, you have small children and aging parents, and it all gets to sometimes be overwhelming, but there are different ways to kind of incorporate what best serves our values.
Right.
So I think we'll start with the real estate portion
Sure.
of what you do, and perhaps tell our viewers what attracted you to real estate. How did you end up in real estate?
Oh, what a great question. That's really a fun story. I have always wanted to work in a position that rewarded me for my work, not just for hours put in. I was a consultant for about 10 years, and I thought that would do it, but they just paid by the hour. So when I got the idea of doing real estate, I wasn't sure what even entailed, so I went and visited with a friend of mine, and I said, now don't say anything until I say this whole thing, because I haven't said it to anyone. I'm thinking about being a real estate agent. Do you think it would be okay? And he said, he's an attorney and a wise man, and he said, I see no reason why you wouldn't be very successful at that. And that was a Wednesday, and by Saturday I was taking classes.
Wow.
And I have not looked back. It has been the greatest transition that I have been able to make in as far as my career.
Wow, very
It really enables me to help people in a way that's very helpful to them, helping people buy and sell their houses in an area that maybe they don't know as much, and I can provide some service to them. It gives me the flexibility I need to do family things and to travel especially to Guatemala for church. And it enables me just to do my own thing at my own pace. And that is just exactly what I've needed for a long time.
It works for you.
It does.
And I have to say, in full disclosure, Denise helped my husband and I a year ago find our new home, and we had a list, like most people do,
Yep.
of things we wanted for our new home. And primarily we were looking for a larger second bedroom space to use for an office, and workspace. And Denise found us a home that we absolutely fell in love with that had nothing on our list, except it did have the second larger room for an office space. So, but we love being there. We feel like we moved to paradise. It was very close to our older place, but we didn't even know it existed, and we didn't know about the woods. We didn't even know that area existed. So it was totally fun surprise to find that just a couple miles away was this really beautiful spot, and we've absolutely enjoyed it ever since. So.
Well, I'm glad, and that's what really makes my job so delightful is to kind of read between the lines and see if I can understand not just what they're saying, but what they mean when I'm helping buyers to find the right spot. And
Yeah.
it's sometimes a puzzle, and when I can find just the right spot that people weren't thinking about and it's just exactly right for them, it is so rewarding.
Yeah,
It's really
because
great.
we just every day love being there. We're just very delighted. So in our case, yes, I can totally vouch for how the process worked. So so for people who might be interested in getting their house ready to put on the market, you know, the housing industry and housing sales have been so down in the dumps since 2008, and people still think about that as maybe this is not a good time. But perhaps you can share a little bit. What's the current
Sure.
state of the real estate market?
Yeah, it has really come zooming back the past year and a half to 2 years, especially year and a half. And in Egan, we have seen an increase in the prices have gone up about 5% over the last year, April to April. And days on market is pretty short. We expect if your house is on the market maybe under about $350,000, that we expect it to at least get an offer in a couple of weeks.
Oh,
Our rule of thumb in my office is that if you don't have 10 showings or an offer within the first 2 weeks, you're priced too high. Houses are going very fast right now and they're priced correctly.
interesting. So Egan may be bucking the trend nationally, or some other cities may not be doing quite as well, but this
Egan is doing
suburb
very well.
is
The
doing
south of the river suburbs are all doing very well, especially compared to nationwide, of course, but even compared to the 7-county metro area, where it's a little bit longer days on market and the supply is just a little bit higher. So Egan and the south of the river are very, very good places to sell right now.
So attractive markets.
Very attractive.
So what about interest rates then for people who are buying? How is that looking?
Interest rates are still hovering around 4, sometimes a little less. Not very often a little bit more. It also depends on your situation. So you can't really go to one of those websites and say what my interest rate would be, because it's all dependent upon your situation. So you really need to talk to a mortgage professional to find out for sure. But interest rates are up a tiny, tiny bit, but at 4%, my goodness, people who bought houses 10, 15, 20 years ago are loving 4%, because our first house was 10%.
And I can even say my first house way back
Probably
when
17.
17, yes. So definitely.
And a lot of people who are buying houses now don't have any experience with that. So when it starts to creep up towards 5, it gets a little scary, which is normal. I mean, that's all the experience they've had with it. But it is still an excellent, excellent time to borrow money to buy a house, if buying a house is right for you. And I don't really think interest rates are going to go too far too fast. I know a lot of people are watching the Fed and seeing what they're going to do about long-term interest rates. And it looks as though they're not really going to do anything until at least fall.
Okay.
Is my professional analysis.
So there's a little leeway in there. It's not imminent that rates will
And
start.
even when they do go up, they're just going to go up incrementally, because the Fed is being especially careful about not putting the brakes on the growth that we have seen in the last year or so, not just in real estate, but all across the economy.
So that's good to know.
Yep.
So if somebody is getting ready to sell, some tricks of the trade, what would you advise them as an agent? What do you want to see when you go to see someone's home and it's getting ready and they want to put it on the market? What do you look for? What's attractive for you?
Well, a couple of things. It's important to know if you're getting ready to sell your house is that buyers make a decision in about 7 seconds.
7 seconds.
7 seconds. So when they walk in the front door, it has to look good. So some things that we do right off the bat is make sure the entryway or the front entrance looks great, that the paint is neutral, that maybe if there's that kind of brassy light fixture hanging from the ceiling, that gets swapped out for something that's a little more up to date. They don't all have to be switched out, but at least that first impression has to be great. And even some things as simple as putting a new very colorful rug at the front is something that makes a big difference and captures them in the first 7 seconds.
And I think too, I've owned a number of homes over my lifetime, and when you're selling something in the hundreds of thousands of dollars to put a little time and investment
Yes.
in getting it ready to go with an attractive rug or maybe a nice attractive entryway table lamp, however, lighting, making sure it's bright, swapping out the bulbs for lighter
Exactly.
wattage,
Yep.
all those things. Very tiny investment considering you're selling something well over a couple $100,000. So little time and effort.
A little bit of investment goes a long way. Houses that have been staged, and that staging could be anything from having someone come in and you pay hundreds of dollars to have it staged, or something like we go through the house together and just move some things around, take the pictures, take the family photos down, and kind of depersonalize, make it look as much like a model home as we can, and that can take a little effort or it can take a lot. But however you do the staging, it decreases the time on market and increases the price of your home that you'll eventually get. So staging is really important.
Important and worth it.
Yeah, and that also might be painting. If you have the feather painting on the walls, or perhaps some wallpaper that went up when you bought the house 20 years ago, it's probably time for that to come down. And it sounds like a lot of work, but it's very much worth the investment.
So worth it. What about outside when you come in? What do you look for there?
Also, that's important. The the curb appeal.
Curb
as we
appeal, yeah.
See on HG. Oh my gosh. Try not to watch HG when you're getting ready to buy a house. Curb appeal is important. So you want the house, the front of the house, to look great. Right now, we would invite you to plant some some annuals and just give the house a pop of color at the front. Sometimes maybe you need to power wash it. But just neat and tidy.
So windows clean.
That's a good one. Clean windows make a big difference, and a buyer wouldn't necessarily know to tell you that this house looks good because of the clean windows, but they'll definitely know if the windows are not clean.
So you may not notice it if it's well kept up, but you do notice if it is not up to standard. What about shrubbery that's maybe in 20 years growing large and overpowering?
You know what? Feel free to pull that shrubbery out. Even if you're not moving for a few years, if it doesn't bring you joy, take it out. We're doing that at our house right now, and it is bringing me great joy to take that stuff out. So shrubbery is only there as decoration to make you happy. If it's not making you happy, it should go. And if it looks like it's not going to make a buyer happy, we might recommend that you take it out. And we're not asking you to spend thousands of dollars. Sometimes you can just cut it way back. Sometimes you can get it pulled out with the help of neighbor kids. But sometimes that really does make a big difference.
And it can brighten up the inside too.
For
so
sure.
the light comes in, and window treatments allow light to come in, so that's nice.
And there's a couple of things that we're asked a lot about. Should we get granite countertops? Should we get stainless steel kitchen? Should we replace all the carpet and flooring? And most of the time the answer to that is no, unless you've had pets or kids that have really made the carpet bad. It's usually not necessary to replace it. And as far as putting granite countertops in solely to sell it, we wouldn't ask you to do that. That's a big investment that you probably, depending on the size and the price of the house, you probably wouldn't get that back.
Same then with cabinetry and
Yep.
backsplashes. And what about remodeling bathrooms?
Well, when bathrooms and kitchens are the big selling point. So besides the 7 seconds when you walk, first 7 seconds when you walk in, if you've captured them then, they will go to the bathrooms and the kitchen and make their decisions based on that. So those are the places where a little bit of paint, some bright colored accents, maybe even new knobs. If you have the brass knobs on your kitchen, in the kitchen, then if you swap those out for something new, even inexpensive ones from Target, those just make a difference. Also, light fixtures. If you have the light fixtures that the house came with from 1994, those are probably worth replacing. You can get nice ones for $30, $40, $50, and it just makes a big difference for the potential buyer.
Just before we move on to a little bit of your travels, people who are buying, what do you advise people to look for in terms of a real estate agent when they're
That's a good
buying?
question. If you don't already have someone in mind, if you don't know someone or haven't been referred to someone, those are two of the best ways. A referral is, well, we love those, and as a buyer, a referral is someone probably that you could trust. If your friend has used me and they refer you to me, that's a great way to go. If you don't have any real estate agents that you know and are just calling, I would definitely interview 3. And the most important thing isn't the price. Don't just go by the agent who says they'll get you the biggest price. At work we call that buying the listing, and that is usually a recipe for disaster. The market will pay what the market will pay, not what the agent says, not what you hope to get out of it. So the best way to pick an agent is someone that you feel that you can trust, that you can spend a lot of time with for several weeks, and that is responsive to your needs as in the way that you need to be responded to.
That's wise advice, I think.
Oh, good.
So I want to move on now and talk a little bit about other parts of your life,
Oh,
because
yeah.
this is about balancing work and family and travel and other things. And you have you've had a focus on women's issues over time, politically and with your church as well. And part of that has been, I know, traveling to Guatemala. So maybe you can tell us a little bit about how that went. And we have even some things to show today.
Sure.
So.
Well, this will be my 3rd year going to Guatemala to visit the Evangelical Lutheran Church in Guatemala as part of a mission trip with Easter Lutheran Church. We have actually stopped, at least my daughters and I have stopped calling them mission trips. Now we just call it going down to visit friends because we have developed deep and lasting, loving relationships with our fellow sisters in Christ down there. And we go down with the express intent of building relationship. We don't go down there to do things to them or for them, but with them.
It's interesting you say that, because with my Catholic theological training, we talk often about mission in reverse. Mission is not about us going and changing them or getting others to do something. It is about immersing ourselves in another culture, another location, and allowing ourselves to be changed. We come back different. It is us who, the mission is for us. We are the ones who are changed, and we broaden our perspective, and we listen to another way of viewing the world, another way of seeing things. So it doesn't work normally the way we might originally anticipate it's working. So yes.
That's right. In the last 2 years, and this year again, we will be helping with a women's retreat. And some of the same women have been there the 2 years that we've been, and I'm sure there'll be some of the same the 3rd year. And that's what has really been rewarding, is that we go down and see the same women, and they have sometimes traveled for 24 hours straight to get from out in the country to Guatemala City to come to this retreat. And the retreat's maybe only 2 nights long, so their travel is almost as long as the retreat itself. And I know of one woman who had to get on a boat down the river for, I think, a 2-hour boat ride, and then got on a bus, and then took the bus for another 20 hours to get to Guatemala City.
Travel is not like it is here, and they have to make arrangements for childcare. If they're running a business, they have to make arrangements for that. So they need to plan for this and use a lot of resources just in order to travel to 1 2-night retreat, for example. It's a big hardship for them, much more than we would think, oh, I'm just going on a 2-night retreat, I'm going to drive to northern Minnesota. No, it's
not like that at all.
Nothing like that. Nope. So you brought some things with you today that we can take a look at. Let's see what you have here. So this is fun. What's
these 2 purses
were given. Hold them up and then they can see.
These 2 purses were given to my daughters, who also have been to Guatemala. One's 24 and one's 16. And at the end of the women's retreat, the women came out and gave some gifts to a few of the women, and just kind of sneaked them out and offered them, and they had, of course, made all of those things.
This one actually has little tab tops from soda cans, so they've recycled to make the pattern on the bag. So pretty creative, pretty industrious.
Very industrious, and they use what they have. This one too, this is one of my most special possessions. It's a bookmark, and just a little piece of I don't know what that is, and with just a handwritten psalm on there, Psalm 56, talking about trusting in the Lord. So those are and then also this was given to my daughters. It's a journal that they made out of items that they just happen to have around. The people that we work with in Guatemala City in particular are very, very poor. We wouldn't necessarily know that by the joy in their hearts, in their love, but they don't have much. So what they have given to us is really meaningful.
This has a story behind it.
This has a
too.
story.
Yes.
This is a painting which a man in a I'll come back to that maybe.
So.
He paints this, and while we're watching.
Yeah.
Yep. And then sells them for, I don't know, not very much money, less
So-
than $10 each. And
But very talented.
very
what
talented.
He's doing here.
He's doing it on the street and selling them as tourists walk by.
Nice.
And I can't remember the name of the town. That's why I was stumbling a bit there. And then this last one, this red runner, is really high quality, made by women in one of our partner congregations out in the country somewhere, and these actually get sold around Guatemala. We don't really encourage bringing things back and selling them here as a way of making money, because we really want them to be self-sufficient, just like we want to be self-sufficient. So we're partners and not us doing for them.
Yes, because if we sell it here and then our economy
then they've
slows
lost-
down, they're out of business too. And when they sell it within their own communities, they are self-sustaining. This is a very elegant weaving and high quality and very beautifully done.
And in one of our next challenges is with the women in these small communities to help them develop some options to right now most women get married at age 14 or 15 and start having babies right away, whether that's their choice or not. So one of the things that the Lutheran Church in Guatemala is working on is offering training to women in all sorts of different areas, whether it be sewing or gardening, canning, cooking, those kinds of things, so they can become self-sufficient and decide when they're ready to get married and have babies.
So more autonomy, a little more independence, and a capacity to make some decisions on their own, and
opportunity for education. Yep.
Right. And the other problem too, you have children and a mom who doesn't have training to support herself if anything happens to the one person who's providing income for the household, the father, either through an accident or death or illness or something else. It's a recipe for poverty.
Right.
So to allow them to have some training and some capacity to support and help contribute to their family income, it's also a good insurance for them.
Yes, it's been very rewarding to see some women come to the women's retreat who are 18, 19 years old and still single, and choosing to stay that way and learn a trade and take that back to their community and then share it there.
Yeah, so they have the same opportunities as women in this country or in Europe or elsewhere too. I wanted to ask you to share a little bit. You have some interesting things that you do in addition to taking your daughters with you to Guatemala. You have some activities and things you do to encourage and build your values for your children. So I noticed you mentioned a couple things about a Christmas gifts tradition that's not the
We've talked
typical
about
one
that
our
before.
culture goes for. So maybe you can share a little bit about what that looks like in your household.
Yeah. For a long time, we haven't given Christmas gifts. We instead sometimes don't give anything at all. Sometimes we'll just give extra to a charity. But that's something we usually do all year long. We encourage the kids to do some kind of tithing on their own. So it's part of their DNA, really, to give back and to share. So giving specifically at Christmas isn't necessarily something that has to be done. So we really try to just concentrate on the holiday and being together and celebrating Advent and Christmas in a Christian way without the trappings of the culture.
So not get too caught up in the culture, all the
Exactly.
Santa Claus and all that goes along with consumerism and not so great for the environment, not so
Right.
great for a lot of things. Another area that you volunteer with, and it's very helpful for people, is something called the Job Transitions Group. And we just have a couple minutes left, but maybe you can share for our viewers what the Job Transitions Group is all
I
about.
would love it if
Yeah.
we got some people to come to the Job Transitions Group because of our talk here. It is a ministry at Easter Lutheran Church. It's Tuesday mornings at 7:30. We have
And you don't have to be Lutheran
No.
to participate.
Nope.
Right.
People are are sent there from the workforce centers and through friends. It's just a great place to come to get advice on how to look for a job, how to do networking, how to fix your resume, all different tips and tricks. And we have a different speaker every Tuesday, and we usually have about 60 people there. So it's just a really great place to come get pumped up for the week and meet with other people who are like you in similar situations. And it's never a downer there. People might come in feeling down and sad about losing their job or not knowing where to go next, but they always leave happy.
Yep. So they connect in with other people, and they can see what other resources are available, and just the network alone of being able to connect with other people in the same situation and learn some of the things that maybe can make that situation a little easier and make resources go a little further. It's a huge help, I think.
Yep. Yeah. And we do bring in our faith a bit, but we have Muslims attending, we have Jewish people attending, non-Christians, and nobody has ever left because because it wasn't right for them that way.
So it's a good place to go to check out and see what options and possibilities are available to you.
Yep, and they can check Easter.org.
Easter.org.
Easter.org is the website for Easter Church, and they can find more information on upcoming speakers and how it all works. Website.
Very nice. I know I came and spoke one time, but I had that interesting situation of working in Catholic ministry, which we always do ministry in the evening, and even though you had told me it was 7 a.m., it didn't click to me that it was 7 in the morning until you called and said, "Roxanne, we're all here." And I thought, I'm not up yet.
Not going to make it.
So yes,
but that was a day or two after we had just been together at a women's retreat. So I was able to apply all of the things that you had talked about to the job transitions group, and I filled in for you.
It worked. Yes, you did, and you did a beautiful job. We only have about a minute and a half left, so if viewers want to connect with you, what's the best link or way for them to do that, so you can maybe...
I would love to hear from people if they have questions about Guatemala, if they're interested in just even learning about selling their house, even if they're not ready. I talk to people all the time who say, "Could you come look at my house? I think I might want to sell it in 5 years." That's fine. There's a lot of fun things we can talk about that you can do now to get ready for 5 years. But I would say email me or call. Either way is just fine. And my email is on the screen there. That's a great way to start. And if you're interested in the job transitions group, also email me or go to Easter.org. And either way, you'll get good information.
Excellent, excellent. Well, thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, well, thank you so much.
Sharing your travels and kind of how you combine your traveling and your family life and your work and being with us. And thank you for joining us. And until next time, this has been Access to Democracy. Bye now.